This is the podcast Your Spiritual Shift with hosts Jennifer Matthews and Carl Gruber. Your Spiritual Shift podcast. It's a show based on their online program of the same name. That's where Carl and Jen guide you to remember and implement into your daily life the truth about who you really are, a child of all that is, your source. We invite you to join Jen and Carl for each and every episode as they explore in depth the teachings and principles of true non-dualistic spirituality and their practical application. You can live your life without the ego's lack, attack, judgment, and guilt and thoughts of sin, and replace them with truth, unconditional love, innocence, pure joy, abundance, and a unity of purpose. Now, here's Jennifer Matthews and Carl Gruber with Your Spiritual Shift.
Hey there, spiritual shifters. I am Jennifer Matthews, and along with my co-host, Carl Gruber, we want to thank you for joining us here on the Your Spiritual Shift podcast. Now, we're super excited to have this show in order to bring you the world's top thinkers, teachers, and practitioners of modern, non-dualistic spirituality, something that you and the world are now awakening to and finally allowing the light, the love, and the truth to flow into your mind and into your heart. That is our aim here, to help you blossom into an enlightened being and move you to a high vibrational plane where you can live the life that you love and love the life that you live. Before we head on over to introduce today's guest, please take a moment to click that subscribe button below to help keep this important podcast alive and well. So, hey, Carl, over to you.
All right. Thank you, Jen, my Aussie buddy. Our special guest today, author and channeler Caroline Oceana Ryan, has channeled information from angels and spirit guides since childhood. She currently channels the divine wisdom and higher energies of the collective, a group of higher beings here to support us as we ascend into fifth dimensional life. Caroline is the author of 6 books channeled from the collective and the cultural memoir Adventures in Belfast. Her book, Lennon Speaks, was channeled from the spirit of John Lennon, and her most recent book, New Earth Journeys, offers the collective's input on the challenging, very challenging issues presented by the pandemic and related issues. She's the facilitator of the Abundance Group and is co-host on A Night at the Round Table, and that airs Thursday evenings on bbsradio.com, Station 2. She holds a MA in Education and Theological Studies from the Union Theological Seminar in New York City and currently lives near San Luis Obispo County in California. Wow, that is awesome. Caroline, welcome to Your Spiritual Shift. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Carl, and Jennifer. Thank you so much for having me. It's lovely to be here, and hello to everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. We've got a lot to talk about today. But before we do, can you go a little bit into your story and let us know kind of how you got to be where you are today, you know, how you started to channel the collective and all of that. Can you go a little bit into that?
Yes, I mean, my background is very similar to that of many, many people who are very spiritually aware right now, meaning that I was raised to think in very conservative, very traditional terms. You know, we went to church every Sunday, and my father was Protestant clergy, and I had a orientation which was not exactly, I didn't feel in opposition to that, but it was a two-pronged journey in that when we lived in Maine, when I was a little girl, I would play in the woods with my friends, and I fully expected to see fairies and elven creatures. And I just had this whole connection to the earth and to the natural world that was very powerful. And I could tell, didn't know at the time, but I would talk to my higher self. I didn't know who this woman was who would kind of just appear in my mind's eye. I would talk to angels. I knew they were right there. And there's just a lot of things a child intuitively knows. And then that gets shoved aside after a particular age. And I think that's that way for most of us. And you come into the full training, the full sort of mental programming of modern life that says, oh, that's nonsense and it's not scientifically proven, and you have to do as the church says or you'll end up in hell. So I went that route for a while. playing music, always energy pouring through me, playing piano, being a poet. And then somewhere along the line, maybe became an activist, a human rights activist by my mid-20s. And then by my late 20s, started practicing yoga, and into early 30s, started reading what people were then calling New Age or New Thought books. And that's when I started to wake up, and I thought, there's no mean, evil, so-and-so in the sky who's trying to make my life hard and who's threatening to throw me in hell if I break a rule. In fact, the universe is love itself. And that just started to catch on like wildfire for my whole being. And then I right around the mid-90s, I started thinking, I used to be able to bring through a higher wisdom, and I started writing out a question, and I asked that wisdom would come through me, and I didn't share it with anybody. And then some of it would come out in my writings by this book, early 2000s, and this book I was writing about life in Belfast, and after the peace agreement. And then by the time, it was about 2014, I guess, I thought, I used to be able to bring through this lovely higher wisdom. And within a day, this group came to me and said, we would have messages that we would like to give you for light workers. Could you please take them down and share them? And so I said, yes, I guess I can do that. So that's where a message to light workers started. And they've been shared all over the world. And it's really such a beautiful thing for me, because I almost never get a negative response. What people are taking in is the energy of them. We're going past this left brain obsession with information and saying, what is the energy saying? What is it speaking to me? And we're just opening up our heart space that way. And then within a year, the group said, well, we'd like to do a book now. Would you start, with that? And I said, yes, okay. So now there's been 6 books and then more coming, I guess. And so then I started doing individual sessions for people and recorded channelings if they just had 1 or 2 questions. And I still do that. And then people started asking me to come on to telesummits and webinars, and now podcasts, obviously. So that's how it went. And a lot happened to me personally. I grew up in a very unhappy family. And so for me, the journey has been one of healing, not just a mental enlightenment, but a whole healing of mind, body, spirit. And I'm very, very thankful, because all of us come in with trauma from other lives. And everything just about that happens to us in this life is meant to show us where healing is needed. It's been needed maybe for centuries. And we can curse our circumstances, but really they're a huge blessing, because they're saying, look, this has been a problem in the past. This time, in this beautiful higher light coming in, let's finally heal this. So that's it in a nutshell.
I do have this question. So when the collective first came to you, did it freak you out? Did they first write through you, or did they immediately start using your voice, or both?
The writing came first, and then I felt shy about speaking messages through them, but I got past that. And then I had to get used to doing guided meditations from them, which I didn't want to do. I felt very nervous about that. So you just move past these blocks, but it didn't bother me, because I've always felt there was something else there. They seem to be here. They seem to be on my right. And when I talk to people's spirit team, their angels, guides, higher self, they're generally over here, which is interesting. Well, I won't go off on that, but at any rate, what they call Kirlian photography can show where the different colors in your aura, and this is purple here.
Yeah.
So it didn't bother me, because I'd always been in contact with people who were in the room without showing themselves, and physically. And sometimes I will see something peripherally or see a flash of light. But sometimes, I've got friends who do see these beings, and I feel that would flip me out slightly, but it would also be fascinating. So
I was just thinking, Caroline, as you were speaking. So when you were young, you said you came from a traditional religious background where you went to church, and I came from the same background as well. So when you started to contact or to see these other beings, or to hear these other beings, did you kind of keep that to yourself, or fear that you were going to be ridiculed, or did you kind of like try to speak to your parents about it, or what sort of happened in that regard?
I don't think that I really talked to anybody about it when I was growing up. Do you mean when I was
Yeah,
younger?
when you were growing up, and you said that you connected with the fairies and you knew
No,
that no.
They just thought I was slightly nutty. I have a reputation in the family as being very eccentric, very left of center, a little wacky. And because I never married, that only sort of exacerbates that situation. I'm the bizarre spinster who's a writer and a poet who lives sort of elsewhere in her head. And, you know, there are a lot of reasons too why I was up in my head a lot with my imagination, because you suffer certain forms of trauma. You feel it's not safe to be in the body. So in a sense, those things work together. But no, I didn't really talk to them about it a lot, because they tended to say, to edge away from it. It was the whole world. The experiential part of spirituality was not what they recommended. They recommended the dogma and sticking to the rules. And that's what they were comfortable with, but I never was.
You know, we're going to ask if the collective can come in a moment, but I'd like to find out, so you're a poet. Is that channeled, or is it strictly Caroline? And what do you write about?
Isn't that interesting? It's an interesting question. I went from writing poetry for many, many years to when I lived in Los Angeles. And actually, I spent a year in London studying acting and theater. And I was going to write stand-up comic monologues, but a play came forward, and then other plays after that, and I produced a few of them in LA, and because I went back to LA in '94, and you know, I don't know sometimes which is me and which is somebody else, because when you're in the energy of just allowing inspiration or a flow of energy to flow through you, in that current, you don't know exactly where it comes from. It could be your higher self, it could be a past life self, it could be a lot of different things, but the voice of the poet is so sacred to me, and it comes through very unconsciously, sort of the way you'll watch someone draw sometimes, and they'll just dash, their hand will dash across the page as if something is unseen is directing it. It's very instinctual. So I tend to think it's a bit of my higher self, a bit of me, a bit of something I can't really name, but it's fascinating, isn't it? And you could call that channeling if you wanted to.
Maybe you were channeling Shakespeare when you were in London, huh? But you know, I've talked to Jen about this before. That's how I write. When I write, I'm not consciously a channel, but when I write, I invite spirit to come through me, and then I'll sit there in front of the computer and go, and when I'm done, however later I look it back, I go, I wrote that.
Yeah, I know. I do the same, and I think it's amazing the sort of stuff that you can come up with when you invite your higher self into the, or spirit into the situation, is amazing. And you look at it and you go, wow, that's like some of the best work I've ever done. So, and there's no struggle, and you can be sitting there for like hours, and there's no struggle, and the time goes so quick, and so it's definitely the best way of doing it. So now I did read through your New Earth Journeys book, or at least I read through a number of the chapters of it, and that was all channeled from the collective, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Very fascinating, because there is a lot of stuff going on with the situation, or the pandemic, or whatever we want to call it at the moment. And you know, the chapters on the vaccines, the chapters on all of that was very fascinating to hear what the collective had to say about that. But we are going to bring the collective in just a moment, and special treat, and we're going to have a talk to them about some of the craziness going on. I'm sure Carl has got some questions that he would like to ask. So Caroline, if you are able, can you please bring in the collective and we'll have a chat to them?
Yes, sure. What I like to ask everyone to do, and this gives me a moment as well, is if you just sort of go into your heart space, you're breathing in deeply, in through the nose, slowly. And slowly out through the nose, out through the open mouth, sort of. And that's going to, as you continue doing that, that puts you in the heart space. And we encourage listeners as well. to give this moment to yourself as a sort of quiet gift of being fully present, and just continue that, and I'll bring in the collective. Just give me one moment. Well, greetings, dear ones. We are very pleased to be amongst such beautiful company and such luminosity and warmth and joy. And we take great pleasure in being with you today, in part because what you are discussing is really a matter of finding one's joy and not only tunneling through the issues, the challenges, the intensity of these times. And so if you have a question, that is fine. We are happy to lend our assistance.
Okay.
All right, Jen, you want to go first?
I just want to say thank you for being here, collective, and we are looking forward to hearing your insights as to some of the craziness that is going on at the moment. So I know that Carl has got some very important questions that he wants to ask, and so I will pass it on over to him first. So what would you like to ask, Carl?
Well, collective, what an honor to have you here. Thank you so much. We love talking to our friends, our ascended friends who know so much more than we do, can see all. And what's going on, like Jen said, with the chaos in the world, considering that all of humanity is now at a seeming crossroads in existence, ascending to the enlightenment of the 5D crystalline world. Right now we're going through a dark path of conflict, fear, brutality. Is man going to perish? What role does free will of man play at this crucial point in time?
Yes, indeed. This is one of the greater questions of the era, because people are wondering, do we still have free will, or has that been taken from us? And so they're wondering, well, how can I affect what's happening half a world away? Or how can I shine so brightly that others are encouraged, and so am I? I don't lose hope, I don't lose faith in what is happening, and I don't miss the beauty, the power, the miracle of it. So we are going to say quickly to begin with, no, humanity is not going away. This is your moment. This is the moment in which you ascend to this beautiful luminosity that we spoke of earlier. Because in this moment, you begin to remember who you are, and you begin to reclaim your co-creative power as divine beings in physical form. And you haven't really ever been there before, not in a very, very long time, and not post third dimensional living. This is an ascension that is quite remarkable. We wouldn't say there are too many planets out there that have managed it so far, and not too many physically incarnate beings who have managed it. And so you blaze a new trail. You've got billions and billions of ships, sort of, shall we say, parked all around the planet, all of them watching what you are living through and what you are proving to yourselves and to others. We do see this, as some call it, the dark matrix dissolving. We do see the stranglehold of the old power crowd, as our writer calls them, the old tiny elite who have pretended to be your lords and controllers for centuries. We do absolutely see that fading now. And we ask that you have faith in the power of your own heart space, your own ability to grasp your own light and to stay in the present moment. Now, we understand you are watching your television sets or your internet or what have you, and you're hearing dire reports of war here and there, or perhaps the drumbeat of war in different parts of the world. You're seeing economic collapse, and you're wondering, in addition to these natural and not so natural disasters, and you're wondering, good grief, what's going to happen next? And we would answer transmutation, transformation, your own and that of your planets. And no, it is not a moment to lose faith or lose hope or what have you. It is a moment to celebrate in the sense of finally we're here, we're crossing that bridge. We haven't completely crossed it yet. Things look shaky because they're in transformation mode, one might say. But every time you ascend into joy, every time you ascend into your own empowerment, every time you move into this feeling of I create my own life, we all do, and I choose the path of light and the path of joy and fulfillment, you are obliterating the hold that fear and stress and this chronic sense of disempowerment that people have lived under for centuries. You are erasing all of that. And so we encourage these beautiful moments. And we say often to people, keep looking at how beautiful your life is. Keep meditating, keep chanting the mantras, keep doing whatever assists you, the tapping, listening to high vibrational music, being out in nature, giving thanks for anything and everything you can think of. Move into that energy. And this disempowering moment of, are we going to make it or not, will fade away. And you'll realize, in a sense, we're already there. All times are now. In the fifth dimension, you won't be thinking in terms of this linear past, present, future situation, and you'll just relax into knowing that all is well. So we say to you, why not start that now? Why not begin to celebrate? Because it's already taking anchor beautifully, already happening. Yes, indeed.
Wow, beautiful. Beautiful message. So what can we do as light workers, as starseeds, as people that are trying to help the universe at the moment, to help humanity? What can we do that is going to help to shift that 5D vibration that we're trying to get to? What can we do?
There are two things, Delwan. For one, as we say, you want to avoid panic. You want to avoid a reactive state of, well, they've just threw this one at us. They just threw this curveball, or there's been this threat, or this seeming lack, or the supply chain is broken down, or jobs have disappeared. You want to avoid going into a panic, and train yourself now through meditation and through quieting the mind to stay on the track of remaining calm. And you also want to remember that no one creates your reality but you. And this is what's really trying for a lot of people, because you're used to just trusting certain areas of information, certain modes of direction, and what used to be called political leadership, which, as you can see, isn't anymore. It's a political muddle and it's dissolving. So what you want to do is realize, I am my own creator. I am in the captain's chair. I run my own ship. I run a tight ship, and I'm captain of that ship. And I'm not going to take anyone else's word for it, even when they seem to point to obvious evidence that, well, it's all fallen apart and we might as well all fly into a panic and feel the stresses of the moment. If you refuse to play along, you don't draw in those transmissions, you open up to much higher ones. And each day when you wake up, image this powerful light pouring in now. The sun is going into these solar flares, and it's pouring out this beautiful monoatomic gold dust, these higher level particles. These are light codes that hold data that affect every cell in your body, every particle of your mind, emotions, and your spirit. Just image all that light pouring into you. Speak to it, say, thank you, friend. You are what informs my day, you and my higher self. I don't give my power away to anyone else.
Yeah, that's something that we're seeing in Australia at the moment, is the panic. And it's something that I work very hard not to fall into. And there's, through a lot of meditation, as you said, through a lot of self-reflection, a lot of connection with my higher self, but we are going through that supply issue at the moment, but not because of COVID, actually, because of the we've had flooding over here, and so none of our trucks or food trucks or anything can get into Perth. So literally the shelves are like empty at the supermarkets, and it's something that we've never seen before. And so people, of course, decide to panic buy and go in and buy everything that they can. And so I try really hard to stay grounded and to stay balanced. Now, I wanted to bring up the topic, which is something that there is a great separation about, and that is the topic of vaccines, because it is something that people are stressing about. And I did read Caroline's book, The New Earth Journeys, where we did talk about that. Can you give a little bit of insight into that and how important it is that we maintain that light as we go in, if that is something that we are required to do at this point in time?
We would say to those who feel they have no choice, do not panic. If you are made to take this vaccine, any ill effects can be overcome and you can repair your system. Please do not panic. There are wonderful nutrients, wonderful vitamins, supplements, water fasts, if one is able to do that for a few days, which can counter the ill effects. Some people thoroughly believe in it. This is fine. You know, this is one's path. Every path is utterly sacred. We ourselves do not recommend it because some have suffered adverse effects. But we would say, follow what you believe is right for you, dear ones. We don't tell people what to do. What we really intend is that everyone understands what was essentially behind it. If one reads our books, if one is led to the books, that is fine. If one is not led to them or prefers to just go one's own way, again, that path is sacred and we bless and give thanks for it. So understand as well, and this is the not very happy part of it, that your entire environment has been full of toxins for quite some time now. That began a couple centuries ago, and even before that. There are transmissions of energy that are not helpful. There's a contamination of water supply and food and air. You have seen the chemtrails, you have seen all of this. And it's more important than ever to take one's health into one's own hands and to say, I'm going to say, for some, become a vegetarian, others a vegan. I'm going to drink a lot of water, pure water. I'm going to have mainly a plant-based diet of organic fruits and vegetables. And, again, the vitamins, the supplements that one feels are right for one. There are naturopathic doctors who can be of great help. And so it's, again, all about coming into a sense of mastery, in the sense of, this is my life. I'm the co-creator. I'm captain of my own ship. I don't hand my power over to others. And I don't stress in case I did that in the past. Oh no, all is lost. No, it isn't. In this moment, come into your power, dear ones, and follow inwardly. Listen to what's going on inwardly, what is best for you. Now, we do encourage, if you're not used to hearing what your spirit team are saying inwardly, you can always say, look, infuse my thought with your guidance and your wisdom. Just use my own thoughts. And these lovely ideas will pop up. They'll be full of light. Some people use muscle testing, where they link the fingers like so. And if you can't, you ask a yes or no question. If you cannot separate, that is a yes. If you separate very easily, that's a no. And we encourage people, start out with simple questions, not should I marry this person? Yes or no. Simple things. Should I have a salad for lunch? That sort of a thing. Until you can trust the intuitive messages. But again, good grief, don't trade one authority for another. Don't move your trust in authority, sometimes quite benevolently mistrust in authority, to say the New Age gurus or this channeling or that. Go inward, say to your higher self, look, if I haven't heard you actively, we'd better get started with that right now, because I have my own authority and I'm going to start listening. And put me on the path of light. Wherever you lead me, let it be full of beautiful higher light. Yeah.
I would like to ask, so Jen and I, we consider ourselves light workers, and we've discussed this with other guests, and like you're saying, the light workers of the world have to step up their game because it's needed now more than ever. But personally, and I know a couple other light workers who have this issue too. I come from the era, I grew up in the era of the old hippie, anti-war dissident era. And, my ego wants me to get on that soapbox and go, you idiots, you're lying, blah, blah, blah. But I know that's not my path anymore. So I am working through podcasts like this to raise my light. But personally, how, when my ego comes in and I see something, and I don't even, my TV's not even hooked up, but I still see it on the internet and stuff, the stories about what's going on in the world. How do I quell my ego to keep me from falling into judgment and just follow the path of light in non-judgment and love?
In a channeling session, dear one, we would ask your higher self and your spirit guides what they thought of that. And we will say for your listeners in general that this was the intro, what happened in the 60s, early mid 70s with activism, social, political, cultural, all of that was the intro to what you are seeing now. So wonderful that you and your generation are still here. You're not over age 100. You're still quite young and vital, and you're very involved, and your energies have been primed for let's speak up, let's speak our truth, let's care about the earth and humanity and the animals, etc., and the plants and the air, and let's represent and protect them. And this is a beautiful impetus. And you're right that the time for duality and judgment is over. And this is something that the activists fell into in that earlier era. They fell into it very deeply, and in fact have throughout history. And you avoid it by saying in your mind, when you see what others have chosen, you say, as Shakespeare did, whom you mentioned a moment ago, as Shakespeare did, all the men and women upon this stage are merely players. They strut and fret their hour upon that stage. And so you just grant them. You're playing your role, maybe in part to spur on the truth telling of those such as myself, who are saying what we need to say. I love and respect your role. I love and respect you. It's not for me, but I bless you. And I welcome you into the light, or I welcome you into enlightenment whenever you are ready. And sometimes they may surprise you. You know, our writer has a few friends and family members, very conservative people, but they will come up occasionally with some insight that her far more sort of left of center friends have not come up with. And she will be slightly astounded. And we will say, why should wisdom only visit this crowd or that? Occasionally, it will shift back and forth. And the beauty of that, to see different facets of this cultural diamond shining, is just astounding. And all are coming into the light in their own way, dear one. It's just that they come from different corners, culturally or philosophically or religiously, etc. And this is fine. The interconnection of all persons is still there. They are still your family. They are still that to which you are beautifully connected in this web of light. That is the beautiful telepathic, heart-based understanding of light beings feeling compassion and love and increasing patience for those who wouldn't call themselves light beings yet, and yet who quietly, unconsciously aspire to such. So if you knew a 3-year-old who couldn't pronounce the word serendipitous, for instance, you wouldn't laugh at them, you wouldn't be infuriated. You would just say, in time, they'll pronounce it perfectly. Mm-hmm. And that's all. That's all. Just bless them.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
Perfect. Perfect. Do you have anything else that you would like to ask the collective while they're here, Carl?
Well, yeah, and I am going to ask this because I was on Caroline's website and I saw her recent blog about this, and I find this very interesting myself. I see that in your blog on your website, you mentioned the global grand jury that is now going on, a collective of human beings from the world of law and science that are doing a global video prosecution of the untruths behind the current pandemic. Since it was mentioned in your blog, would you care to address that?
Well, dear ones, human trust, as we were saying, in the old power structure, in the old mode of thought, in the old cultural standards, if they can be called that, or structures, all of that is just disappearing because you've been so badly abandoned and failed by those structures. So now you're creating your own. And really, isn't this what people dreamt of in the 60s and 70s when they started what were called alternative communities, except now that community reaches worldwide because of the internet and because of this increasing, they call internet, again, the increasing strength of the telepathic interconnection of all persons. And so this is why these movements are spreading so powerfully, such as this trucker convoy movement going across the world, and the grand jury being noticed by people across the world. And this is the court of the people, of public opinion, because that old structure is just no longer relevant. So new structures are coming in their place, and they hold so much more light, which will mean so much more staying power. And they said this is a beautiful indication of increasing empowerment and people coming into their strengths and gaining their voice and using it. It's been there, but they didn't know they could use it, and they didn't see the immediacy of the need until now, the full and thorough need to speak up, to speak against the idea that war is always the answer, or poverty is inevitable, or telling people what to do and forcing them to see things your way out of threat is inevitable or even preferable in certain circumstances. They're just seeing through that and saying, no, not really. I don't see the point of that. When did that ever work for humanity? And the answer is never. Yeah.
Amazing. Whew. Yeah, lots to talk about. Jen, what about you?
Oh, I think the questions that I have been answered, and I think there's been a lot of value given from the collective today. Is there any final words that the collective would like to give us, to give humanity on staying calm and staying in their light at this time?
Well, we're asking the higher selves of everyone who will be watching or listening to this podcast, because we'd like to do that. And what we are receiving is this phrase that the higher selves are using, which is don't forget about the joy, meaning more expression of being so thankful and so celebratory. You know, there was such a mad press, as they say, to come forward at this time, to be in the physical, to witness what is happening and to be a part of it, and not just to watch from the higher realms. So it looks like a very tough time to be on the planet, but all of you desired powerfully to be here. You had very good reason, and you were given the go-ahead to be here. Some of you from other planets and other star systems and of course other dimensions, but you've come through it this time because you said, oh, this is so exciting, I have to be a part of it. Now we would look about humanity and about the beautiful star seed and the beautiful light beings present, and we would say, where's the joy, where's the celebration that you have come forward, and here you are, and now the transformation is happening. So play that joyful music, sing loudly, dance, and take great joy in nature, because she is singing, you know, this the highest, most beautiful vibration we have ever heard, at least since the fall to the third dimension. And that's only going to keep going, dear ones. So we are thrilled for you. Do not forget to celebrate. No need to wait. No need to wait.
Remember to laugh.
Remember to laugh. Thank you so. Yep.
Do we
go
have
on,
time
Carl.
for one more quick question? I didn't know if you had going.
Yes, go for it.
I'd like to ask our friends, Jennifer and I are grounded in non-dualistic spiritual principles and teachings as like that comes through A Course in Miracles that was channeled by Jesus in the voice of Jesus in a Christian vernacular, but it's actually purely spiritual. Is the coming of A Course in Miracles, which was channeled in the early 70s, has that been a key factor in humanity opening and awakening?
We would say it has been for some, yes. You know, it came in so as to bridge for those raised with Christianity, to bridge from the traditional and the confines of that to the very much more open space that you speak of, the non-duality. And it has done that to a good degree. So it is there for those who desire to move from the traditional to the more sort of higher dimensional view of Sananda Kumara, the oversoul of Yeshua, Jesus of Nazareth. And it has been really a beautiful beacon for many from that viewpoint. And we would say it because it speaks in that nomenclature, in that world of Christianity. It won't reach everyone, but it has been of tremendous help for millions. Yes, indeed. And interestingly, it came through persons who didn't really have any particular religious bent or agenda, which is beautiful.
Ellen Shuckman, Ellen Shuckman was a scribe, the channeler of that. Wow, this is awesome. I'm so happy to have you on, Caroline and the collective. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, we'll bring our rider back now.
Thank you so much.
Much love, and we are honored to assist.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so thank you. Those were good questions. Thanks. Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, I think our listeners would have gotten a lot from that. And yeah, that was fantastic. So you come out of it very quick, huh?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Because I am not an unconscious channel. I'm just, it's like I'm in the back of the room. I'm present, but I'm just kind of watching it, you know. I don't leave my body and I don't go unconscious. Some people are full body trance mediums. I wouldn't want that. That's not for me. But
I reckon that would be scary. I reckon that'd be scary though.
I feel like I've left my body enough. I need more in-body experiences in life. The only thing is they pour so much love through that I will get teary-eyed at times because it comes to the heart space. That's a slight drawback. So then I'm sniffling while I'm trying to channel. But
last September, I went to Florida for a 3-day weekend with Carol Collins, who is a full unconscious trance channel. She brings in Seth, Yeshua, James, the I Am Collective, and it was interesting being around this body that really, I was walking down the street with Carol's body, and I said, "Well, Carol, were you and your friends?" And she goes, the voice said, "No, this is Seth." Yeah, and it was really interesting too. Yeah, and she's on like for the entire weekend. She's on for like 98% of the time, and that's her. She gave her teachers the allowance to do that. It was her free to do that. Yeah, but wow, it's interesting.
Wow. Yeah. That would be intense if you were a friend or family member. Yes.
Yeah, totally. So you've also channeled John Lennon as well.
Yes.
How did that come about?
It's good fun. A friend of mine who sadly passed away in September, she was Shirley Ballstock, an astounding medium and psychic and energy worker, just an astounding human being. And I was at an event with her. We were both presenters, and she was talking about, she would bring through George Harrison, she would bring through different, David Bowie, different musicians, etc. And she said to me at one point, "John wants to work with you." And I was astounded because I've always looked up to him. I was heartbroken when he died. Because I was a tiny little girl during the Beatlemania thing, they've always been there. They've always been in my life. And I just, listened to his music. I have my whole life, and particularly his solo music, and was so influenced by him as a peace activist. And so I kind of put it off for a year, and then I just started channeling it, and he was so great. He is just wonderful.
Wow.
And it's people, I think, really related to what he was saying. They seem to really enjoy hearing from him on a lot of different issues, including are ETs real, and are they, have they landed, sort of thing, because he saw a ship in New York City, August of '74, I think that was, one weekend. A lot of people called the cops and said, "Hey, there's a flying saucer, big metallic craft floating in between these buildings in Manhattan." And he got pictures, but they came back blank, and I think that was to protect him.
Yeah.
Well, I know Jen has to get going for another interview, but the thing that I found interesting is the collective mentioned all the ships from other galaxies and universes that are hovered around Earth. I've had a number of channels in Ascended Masters on I have a podcast too, have said the same thing. Ashtar,
especially the Pleiadians and that are around there at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, Ashtar, I believe, is the head of one of the galactic councils, is there with this huge ship out there. And wow, how interesting. Most people don't believe that stuff or understand, but I've come to understand, yeah, that's what's going on.
There are increased sightings of ships all around the world. And sometimes they invite people onto the ship. Sometimes people are actually speaking to the beings who have come in. Sometimes they just see the ships. I've seen wonderful videos and images, pictures. Definitely, they're parked all around. They're stationed all around us. It's just that they're cloaked, as they would say on Star Trek. Otherwise, if they weren't, they would blot out the light of the sun. That's how many there are. They're all watching us. Yeah, this is a huge moment on the planet, which is why things are so cool. Crazy if they do. But it's also an exciting time. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're at one of the most exciting times at the moment, and I've said since all of this started a couple of years ago when it first started. I can't believe it's been that long. What, a year and a half? And I've said that this is going to create an awakening like never before, because the amount of people that I know that have finally realized their purpose, they've finally realized what they desire to do. They've been stuck in this 3D for so long, and all of a sudden they've got this passion and this purpose to be doing something different. It's amazing, and I think the level of awakening that's happening at the moment is quite it's fantastic. So I think it's something that if we can look at that side of it, and like the collective said, don't panic, don't fear, everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to work out. We're going to be at a much higher vibration, a much higher level, that we can live our best life and live in joy, people. Live in joy. We are here to love our life. We are here to, what did we say? Love the life that we live and live the life that we love. And that's really important. So thank you so much. I am going to have to head off for another interview, but Caroline, I am so blessed to have you here today. And Caroline's actually going to be on my Superconscious Success podcast as well, coming up in a couple of weeks. So we're going to delve a lot deeper into some of the other aspects. She's got a book on, is the book on the abundance?
Abundance for All.
Yeah, Abundance for All.
The collective on creating the light workers' path to creating money and true wealth, or something like that. So we're going to be covering that topic and seeing what the collective has to say on that issue. So thank you so much for being here, and I will catch up with you soon, Caroline. Thank you so much, Jen.
Thanks, Cal.
Thank you.
Thanks, collective.
Thank you both.
Okay, bye. Oh, that's awesome. So what I'll do is I'll put all of your details on the bottom of the show notes, because I do have to head off for my other interview. But thank you so much for being here. We've been chatting back and forth, and it's lovely to finally meet you.
Oh, I'm honored. Really lovely time. Thank you both so much. Really lovely.
Thank you. Bye. And I'll be in touch with you, and and we'll get sorted for Superconscious Success.